Oh, folks, we have so much fun here on the Rec Poker podcast. I'm so pleased when I hear that tune because it's time for another week of the show. You're tuning in for episode 607 of the Rec Poker podcast. This is the chats edition, but we also have a forums edition every week where we just talk strategy. Now, I'm your host, Jim Reid, Bluffsterini in the home game and at Rec Poker Jim on the hellscape that we call Twitter. And I have the best freaking job in the world, talking poker with my friends here on the Rec Poker podcast every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. And you can join us for free every week and win a prize just for showing up. Now, we are very excited tonight. We've got renowned poker author Alex O'Brien here in the booth to join us for an interview. But first, I have to mention we are brought to you by Running Aces, the official sponsor of the Rec Poker podcast. And most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization. So we really depend on support from our sponsors and also from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. So I got to shout out a couple new ones that joined the Rec Poker premium family over the last week. That's Matthew McCarville and Hubert. Wait a second. I got to make sure I get this one right. Sasalowski. Hubie, you let me know how I did with that one. Is it Sakalowski? I think Sasalowski. I really feel like I nailed it on the first time, and I'm only hurting myself by continuing to talk about it. But Matthew and Hubie, thank you so much. You're going to love everything that we do here at Rec Poker, or at least you'll love enough of it to stick around. I'm confident about that. Welcome to the gang. Now, I want to say that, of course, you can always get a free account here at Rec Poker. All it takes is an email address and a smile to join our free community. We have tons of resources to help recreational players take the next step in their own poker game. But we do insist on the email address and the smile. Those are both compulsory. And while our premium membership is only $22 a month, you can get your first month for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. Get your first month for $5 and give it a try. And if $5 is too much, if $22 is too much, you can always get a free month of Rec Poker Premium membership by supporting your own local food bank for any amount. That's right. So if you donate $1 to your local food bank, send us a proof of that donation, and we'll set you up with a free month of premium membership here at Rec Poker. All right, now, they let me host the show on Mondays, so you hear my voice a lot, but I am only one man. I am one small cog in the Rec Poker machine. It takes a group, a gang, a village, a crew to make all the magic happen here. And we call this group of wizards the RECing Crew. Of course we do, because we're big dorks. And if you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew, or you can just listen up because you're going to meet a few of them right here on the show tonight, starting with none other than producing co-host, our own Chris Jones.
Well, I'm Chris Jones. You can find me 5B5 on Twitter or 5x5 in the Poker Stars home game, and I help run our monthly strategy segment called The Deep Dive.
And he goes deep for those strategy
segments.
I guess. Oh, God, it's a very cathartic experience
there
for Chris. No, that's great. Yeah. Sir.
My name's Joe Coolish. You can find me at Joe Cool PhD on Twitter and LVD11 in the home games. And I am responsible for PsyOps, which is the monthly dive into psychological concepts that will drive your poker game either mad or to great heights.
And I am John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek MN everywhere, and I helped organize our home games.
And I'm Rob Washam. You can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. And on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, you can join me and a crew of premium members as we discuss the latest poker books.
That's right. So as you can see, just a little taster's choice of the smorgasbord of offerings that are here for our Rec Poker Premium members. And this is how we like to do it. So take that, Alex O'Brien. We finally got you. Welcome to the Rec Poker podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. I mean, you only finally got me because the time difference was going to be so huge. And I have this year started to prioritize health and sleeping, and I knew I was going to be in the States for 2 months, so this is more manageable. Like I said, 7:30, everybody's at dinner. Like I said, the kids are going out to have ice cream, and the boys are on the porch drinking, so we're good. This is thank you very much for having me. Since everybody's done introductions, I will introduce myself too. Alex O'Brien. I'm a science writer and poker player too. And the way I would describe myself is the nerdy, sciencey poker player that, you know, happens to love science and poker and has written a book that combined the two, like written a book about the Venn diagram between science and poker. Yeah.
That's awesome. And the Truth Detective, you know, we've talked about it here on the show before. It's such a cool book. And it just goes to show, become an award-winning published author, have time to work on things like sleep and eating right and taking care of your body. It's like the two go hand in hand. So you're obviously just living the life that all these, I mean, what am I trying to say? Poker is one of these fields like writing, where it's hard to sort of credentialize yourself other than by having success. Have you always kind of seeked these paths that are difficult to traverse and sort of require a lot of internal motivation? Like, you can't just tap at a diploma on the wall behind you and say, you know, I'm a good poker player, I'm a good writer.
You're tapping into something really interesting, because I came back from Vegas this year, where we both met for the first time in person. No, actually, we met.
We just briefly in Dublin. Yeah. But that's all right.
And I'm not going to lie, I was emotionally and physically and mentally broken. I had put in so much effort, because I'm about to start book 2, and the World Series for me was going to be sort of this landmark where I work towards, and then poker is going to take a little backseat until I finish book 2, because you can't do 2 things great. That is just impossible. So I'd put in a lot of study in every day. I did my drills, I watched the videos, I read books, and I just went in with super high expectations. I cashed the first event with Jen Shahade, my tag team partner. We're like, so I'm like, this is it. I'm going to totally smash this summer. Then I cashed my second immediately.
Whoa!
The Independence Day one, that was the day after. So I cashed that. I'm like, right, this is it. And then I had a couple of days of nothing, like punting a few tournaments, as you do. Then there was nothing else on the schedule that I could play, because I came fairly late.
Mm-hmm.
I played one of the deep stacks in the Normandy room, because I got there, wanted to play a satellite, but they had canceled the satellite. I'm like, like, what else have you got going on? Now, like, there's this 200 deep stack. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll play that, thinking it'll be a bit of fun, because my friends were telling me about all the crazy plays that were happening. And literally within the first 3 levels, I had 250 big blinds. I'm like, they were telling me tales about this, you know. Like, I thought it was fairy tales. It was literally like, I am 4-betting you right now. I definitely have it. Are you really calling for 50 big blinds? Yes, you are. Okay, great. I mean, it was too easy. And I final tabled that one, and then the final table, like, I had a couple of pros and one veteran poker player that had main event final tabled at like 20 or something. I forget the name, but yeah, it was a serious final table. It was fun. But it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and and then they moved us to I know we started off the province and then moved down to Normandy, and that was it. And that was all the cash. All the caches I had. I had 3 caches and like 12 buy-ins, I think.
That's a phenomenal cash rate. Are you kidding? Like, okay, so I know you're right about poker. You're hanging out with the hoi polloi of the poker world, like Jen Shahade and all these other folks in the poker world now.
I mean, the summer in Vegas, as you guys know, is as we all call it, the summer camp, is because everybody's there, and you can just walk from one poker tournament room to another, and in between you're just like, you're high-fiving people or hugging people. I'm a hugger. And it's just so lovely to catch up, even if it's just for a couple of minutes here and there. And that makes it. And this year, I made breakfast a thing where I had breakfast every morning properly, because it was the only decent meal I would ever. And we were just, a friend of mine, Cassandra Young, and I were staying in the same place, and we'd just invite friends. We're like, we're having breakfast at 9:30. Come and join us. We're buying. You know, that was an easy pull. And that was nice. But so I did come back though. I didn't play the main event intentionally, because the idea was that I would try to win myself into the main event.
Yeah.
How I go, because it's just it would have been my third main event, and I just couldn't, like, I'm like, I don't want to feel that feeling, because we know the likelihood of cashing. I mean, Jim, you cashed it, right?
I did. Got my first
incredibly well.
main event cash this year.
Oh my
Yeah, very
goodness,
exciting.
congratulations
Very
again.
exciting. Thank you.
But it's
Very
such
lucky.
Huge, no, lucky, yeah, a little bit of luck. Still,
bit of
come on,
both.
let's talk about
Okay.
this. Still, but it is such a huge effort, and you have to run well. You have to be at top of the game, and the mindset is really, really important.
Yes.
Come 1D, I'm like, I haven't got it in me. Like emotionally and mentally, I wasn't there. I'm like, there's better ways of me punting 10K than. But it's the dream, right? Everybody's like, but it's the main event. I'm like, I get it. I get it. It's our Wimbledon, right? It's the poker world's Wimbledon. It's the main event. And I saw Berkey in the field, and it's like, what do you mean you're playing it? I'm like, Berkey, I'm like, I don't want to feel those feels. I know I'm going to be super crushed, even if I've played well, and even if there's nothing I could have done, I just don't want to feel it. So I decided not to play it this year.
And listen, it's a huge power move to be able to play the main and to choose not to. That's boss level material right there, you know. So I think you're kind of sending that vibe out into the universe too, like, oh, the main event, yeah, you know, maybe next year, we'll see. I got a lot going on right now.
Next year, I felt like I was getting to that point where mentally I was spiraling a little bit, and yeah. I mean, I in comparison to a lot of people, you know, I'm not that down. But you know, it's like single digits rather than double digits, you know. So, but it's still like expectations, right? All our limits are set by our own personal goals, and you know, what would be a lot of money for me might be peanuts to somebody else, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So, and we are only ever competing with ourselves, and I knew that I'm not going to perform to the best of my abilities, so I chose not to do that. So, yeah.
No, I think
it was a great summer.
Yeah. So a few things I want to mention. So first of all, if you're live in our YouTube chat here, feel free to type any questions in that you have for Alex. We'll make sure that she answers them. Well, we'll ask them. I guess we won't. I can't say we'll make sure that she answers them, but we'll definitely ask them of her. And also, if you are in our YouTube chat right now, I want to just thank you for joining us live. We've recently reached, we're kind of making it as an organization here, gang. So if you want to support us with a donation through YouTube, we would love that. We get to keep a portion of that, and we share a portion of all our YouTube donations with a local food bank. So please get in there and give that a try. And then also, of course, I want to thank some of our regular YouTube appearances. My buddy Philip Razor, who's already in there cutting it up with my mom, a regular listener and commenter in the YouTube chat. So hi, Mom. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm glad you were able to figure out how to get into the comment section this time. It's always great to see your name in the YouTube chat. Okay, so yeah, get those questions in, folks. All right, and then yes, I'm going to post that link in just a second here. So, but honestly, Alex, like to cash in a quarter of your events is amazing. You're talking about how, like, you know, the summer was draining and like it wasn't a great result and everything, but like people go down and play 7 tournaments and just brick them all. Like you're running pretty good, I think, honestly.
Yeah, again, you know, I'm a not full-time pro. I define myself as a semi-pro at best, and I go into everything with super high expectations. I feel like. And poker is probably maybe one of the few activities where you can prepare as much as you possibly can, but don't necessarily see the results. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a former triathlete, so if I put 17 hours a week into something, I was going to break personal records. I did not do this. So this is something very challenging for me mentally to accept. That I put a lot of time in. I put the writing completely on ice.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't want to be sounding ungrateful or totally disillusioned, but you know, it's. I came home and I said to my husband, I'm like, I need to take a break of this poker thing, like this poker thing. And like, and maybe I had built it up too much because I am about to launch into, you know, I'm going to give up a thing that I love doing, but when I go deep into research and writing, I just can't do studying poker and pitch. It's just not enough time in a day. Also I have an eight and a half year old, and I'm big into family, and I love spending quality time with the family, and something's got to give. So, and that's usually poker when I write.
Yeah, well, good for you. And I think, you know, good for you for knowing yourself and knowing what it takes for you to get your best work. You know, I think a lot of people have a hard time saying no, even to themselves, and that can hold them back from being able to really give their all to a passion project that requires their all.
Yeah, I think poker teaches you that a little bit as well, where you have to really self-evaluate. So if we're talking about life lessons about what poker does, and I think in terms of how we have to be honest with ourselves, we have to sort of really look at where our weaknesses are and spot them, and how do we give our best acknowledging those weaknesses, and that I do with the writing as well. So it applies to a cross section of life and our world.
No, good for you.
That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, no, I hear it. Chris Jones, you had something.
Yeah, Alex, you mentioned having an 8.5-year-old, and I was doing a little preparation for today, and I came across something that I hadn't been aware of, which is that you're kind of working on with the BBC on a segment called The Poker Parent. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that project and how it came about, and tell our audience about it a little bit.
Absolutely. So a couple of years ago, I was speaking to a colleague of mine who is a BBC producer, but also science writer. And we were at an event together, and she goes, "Oh, should talk to me about this poker thing." So, you know, people are not interested in my science writing. They just want to hear about the poker, about the poker. How much money have you made? How much money have you lost? You know, it's this sort of mystical thing. So we got chatting. She said, wait, you're teaching your daughter? I was like, yeah, absolutely. She's also a chess player and poker. There's synergies there. I want her to learn both. And she had this idea where we were going to do a BBC radio documentary about why I'm teaching her how to play poker. And she was just fascinated about this whole idea. And because a lot of parents, especially people who don't know poker and how strategic and highly cerebral it is, and that it's essentially a puzzle game, you know, are a little shocked about my teaching our daughter how to play. And so we basically brought together a host of guests, including Nikita Luther, Maria Konnikova, Jennifer Shahade, David Laffin, Professor Avi Rubin. He's a computer science tutor at Johns Hopkins, who taught a module of how to play poker to a university class. And then we also had a professor from Australia, Professor Sally. Oh my God, I'm having a brain outage.
That's okay. Names.
So she's a addiction and gambling and addiction researcher in Australia. So we had, it being the BBC, you needed to be balanced, and you need to show both sides. And we talked about the benefits and perhaps downsides of poker, and why especially it is beneficial to my young child and how it grows her.
So, I mean, that sounds like a wonderful collection of names. And then also David Lappin. So I guess he was included really as sort of like a cautionary tale for like the perils of a career in poker, like what the low points for a poker player might look like. Am I following correctly?
That was an interesting
balanced and fair.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was really interesting one because David and I have been friends for many years now.
Oof. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah.
He's
No, that
got a-
sounds rough. That sounds like a rough few years, I'll tell you,
Oh,
Alex.
he dishes out some tough love, I have to say. He keeps me on my toes. But with this, I was shocked to hear because he has two boys, and I just assumed he would be teaching them. He's like, no. And I said, wait, what? How does this even happen that we've been friends? You've heard of me teaching Ava how to play, and you are meanwhile sort of looking down at me, maybe judging me as well. I'm like, you've got to come on the show. We've got to talk this out. So we did that. And I if people have children and love playing poker, it's still on BBC Sound, available. It's called The Poker Parent. It was the podcast of the week for 2 weeks running. I mean, just it was on BBC Radio 4. I mean, it got a lot of love, and there were lots of people. You always know when you're doing something right when you get people who don't understand whatever you're doing, but listen to it and come back going, oh, okay, now I get it. But also you get the other side as well. But what it does really is you take it and you take whatever you need from it and you make your own opinion. I've never been one to force my opinions and my ideologies onto anybody, and I've tried to do that with my writing as well. I present everything factual, as objectively as I can. And when I do have an opinion, I say, well, this is my opinion, rather than presenting it as fact. And then people do make their own paths from there, and that's how I'd like to do everything I put out there into the world.
No, it sounds like a great approach, and I think the world needs more people to take that kind of approach with what they know and what they don't know, and how that affects the opinions that they share. And just before we leave that topic, I assume like BBC Premium members can get a version where the Lappin portions have been edited out for their pleasure. Like you don't actually have to listen to David Lappin, his contributions. If you're like a super elite BBC listener, you can get like a clean copy without ads.
Loved him. He puts them, as you know, David is just such a gem.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of you to say. That's kind of
Yeah,
you to say.
no,
He's not listening. You can let your guard down.
I have no bad word to say. And if I did have something, we have it out amongst each other, but we haven't locked horns yet. So
all right. Well, you're very true to your friends. Very true to your friends, Alex. All right. We can let that go. Joe Coolest, you had something that you wanted to bring to the table here, I think. Oh, we've got. Are you guys hearing Joe as a chipmunk right now?
Yep. Chipmunky.
or helium balloon.
That's a weird one. Joe, put that on pause for 1 second. I don't know if you have to re-enter or something, because your voice was working fine before. How about now?
Better?
Yes, there he is.
All right.
Okay. Sorry,
Switch
get Alvin,
microphones, I'm not
Simon,
sure.
and Theodore out of here, and let's see what you have to say.
Well, they're saying that I have the NPR voice, so on the scan, so I had to change it somehow, and that was one day to show that that my dulcet tones. So I want to go back to a little bit about so cards on the table, as they say. I'm only about a quarter way through your book because I didn't realize you were coming on today. It's on my list. I purchased it. You got whatever royalties from me, so I will finish the book up. That's probably like 45 cents if I know the publishing industry, but yeah. And again, both of my kids play. Actually, they play in the home games and regularly make it to final tables, though people don't always realize it. So I do teach them to play. But one of the things that as I started reading the first quarter of your book, which is what I've gotten through, is you seem to have taken some of the journey that I did when I started looking at poker and suddenly becoming enamored with it as, oh, this is a great life learning task. There are all these lessons and all these different ways to apply it. But my part of the journey, as you said, is I'm kind of coming on the other side, and I don't know that it is a great life teaching task because it's very much transactional in nature. And I think that there is a strong correlation of why business leaders think it's so great. And maybe it's not for the rest of the world because of that transactional nature. And that may be a harder question than you were expecting on the RecPoker podcast, but I'd be interested I'd be
I love
interested
it.
to hear what you have to say about you know, where poker as a game starts to lose itself as an explainer for life. Or if I'm wrong.
I
you know,
think there's two parts
Yeah.
I'm going to, yeah, I love this one. It's great. I think everybody's life trajectory is different. And what I think I've provided is yet one other tool for people that aren't poker players. And I say that very clearly in the book, that this is not a book that will teach you strategy or anything about poker other than the fundamentals, the skills that are needed. And I hone into those. And it's just an excuse to take a deep dive into the scientific methods that underpin those skill sets, right? I'm in an introduction as well. There were some people that expected it to be a poker book, like a traditional strategic, all of that. It has obviously poker elements in it, but they're a scaffold for the real substance of the book, which is essentially a nonfiction science book, and gives me an excuse to go out and find the best within each field and take a closer look, an up close look, shadow people and bring you those findings. And what I wanted to do is like, I just sort of champion the scientific method and also highlight poker as this game that helps you to think more critically. Like it helps you because it's a question and answer game, right? And you're at the poker table, you ask questions with every bet, where every fold, where every action is a question that you want to find an answer or a piece of information that you're getting. And then essentially, yes, it's transactional in sort of a bird's eye view, but life is very much like that. You know, every interaction that we have with another human or cooperation is a transaction. If I tell my kid to go to bed early, she's like, am I going to get a hug? You know, it's a transaction in a like a crude sense. But it's I think when you think about a transaction where you give and you don't get, I think that the second part of the question was, where's that sort of beneficial part of studying poker or learning poker? Where does that end? And I can see that, and I have seen that in Vegas, right? Where perhaps it's more difficult for some people to draw a line. Like I drew a line at the main event 10K. I'm like, no, I'm like, I know who I am. And I think that's where the dangerous line can be. And, you know, some poker players, they talk numbers that for a person outside of poker that has a normal day to 9-to-5 job, perhaps, those are numbers that seem insane, whereas poker players are so desensitized to those numbers that they don't see the weirdness or the strangeness of it all, and they're perhaps disconnected from not real world, but the majority of the world, because poker is such a niche in the grand scheme of stuff. It's a niche world in itself. Mm-hmm. So I guess coming back to my 8.5-year-old, when we don't play for money, we play for plastic chips. And it's like Monopoly. It's actually, I find Monopoly a really silly, stupid game. I mean, it's just teaches you nothing other than if you have Mayfair and all those streets, you're done. You're gonna own everybody. So I prefer to teach her poker because she's going to learn how to lose more often. Even though she's made the right decisions, she still can lose. And it happens in real life too. Like I can try to prevent something from happening and it still happens, even though I've made sure I took care of all the different steps. But I can't be in control of the other person and the other person's emotions or the other person's actions. So how do I deal with that? I have to accept it. And I believe that what poker has taught me and what I believe it will teach my daughter, other than my amazing and my husband's amazing parenting skills, is that she will learn how to deal with these losses. Now, she's an amazing chess player. She made the nationals this year. And, you know, there she will lose against a more skilled player, but in poker she might lose against a less skilled player. So how does she deal with that? And that's going to happen to her in real life too. She's going to get outdone by somebody that maybe is not as deserving or as fast or as clever or anything, and she has to deal with that. And what does she do with those emotions when I'm not there to guide her? So yeah, that would be my long answer to that. Really sorry, that was really
that's a great answer. I mean, I think I would actually follow up because, I mean, anybody that writes and speaks about the Demon Hunted Night is a favorite poker writer. For anybody that doesn't know, that's Carl Sagan's book. That's where I got my science background, and I'm a scientist of myself. So it's your book does speak to me. I don't want it to seem like I'm being critical of it, but I actually think the power of. I'm sorry.
Get to the Carl Sagan bit.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
yeah. I'm a big fan too. So yeah.
And I think that the interesting thing to me is that a lot of times when poker players take the lessons of poker, they want to distill it down to remove their emotional responses to it and presume that they can avoid the biases that make them human when it comes to the game. And I think actually that's probably one of the more powerful lessons that you can get from the game, is in terms of, there's a theory you talked about, System 1 and System 2 from Kahneman's book. And the thing about Kahneman is that he was taking people from Homo economicus, was this rational player in terms of how they make financial decisions and really life decisions, into behavioral economics, which is kind of this irrational actor within the world, which is much more consistent with how most people actually interact with the world. And I think poker can show you that, but it's not always the lesson that everybody tries to convey, because they want to bring it back to this idea of Spock. I will simply remove myself from emotions completely and they will not influence how I play. And that's a recipe for sociopathy, which is not probably a lesson we want to teach our children. So that's just where I'm coming from.
I really understand this point you're making, and I appreciate it. And I hope that as a parent, I can teach our child to really understand the emotions and what to do with those, and how to deal with, like, to not push them to a side and like try to be strong or not show emotions, or what, to really go, okay, I'm feeling this right now. And then I'm known not to make a decision when I know that I'm totally riled up or I'm not mentally in a place. And I just go, you know what? I know this is an important conversation, or you want an answer. I cannot give it to you right now because I'm not thinking clearly. So I notice about myself, and I'm not always able to do that. We are human and we do get upset or emotionally charged, but I am more able to do that now than I was a few years ago. And and I think there's a big benefit to be able to do that. And then you picked up on something else, System 1, System 2, and I should have taken notes.
Irrational behavior, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it'll come to me midway. Yeah, sorry, I should have taken notes. I completely lost my trail there.
We'll have a chance to dive back in if it comes up again. Joe, was there anything else that you wanted to ask at this point?
I have so many questions I'd like to ask you. Hopefully at some point you'll be willing to come on to PsyOps and we can have a really
I'd love to
long conversation about it, because I think there are a lot of things that are really kind of up my alley. So the book is great so far. I mean, if the remaining 3 quarters is as good as the first quarter,
it gets better. I think it gets
better.
Everybody saying that, because towards the end, I really loved writing it more than at the beginning, because I think at the beginning it's like, oh my God, you got to worry because you have to satisfy 2 separate fields, like the science world and the poker world. And I was so worried about getting it wrong for either field, because I didn't want to be crucified by either team. Right. It was like either death was going to be terrible. So it took me a long time to write it, but also I got it fact checked by so many people and I had read by a lot of people. So you'll see in acknowledgements, I have a huge a list of friends and colleagues who gave up the time to read sections or the entire book. But yeah, so it means a lot. Thank you very much. I'm really, really chuffed.
Everybody should buy this book as quickly as they can.
That's right. And so, and as you know, Alex, so Joe's one of our RECing Crew members, and every month he does a seminar where, as a board certified clinical neuropsychologist, did I get that right, Joe? He gets to sort of work in this intersection between science and poker and the brain and the mind. And I think that, yeah, you would be a fascinating guest for that study group. So I hope I'll put you two together after the show and see if we can make that happen.
That sounds like to. Thank you.
John Somsky, you had something, and while before John starts, because I'm in the pros, I make a habit of like pre-interrupting John whenever I can. I just want to remind our YouTube listeners, you got a few questions left. If you want to get something in for Alex, we've got time for a couple more questions, so get them in the YouTube chat, and be sure to stick around to the end of the show. Someone's going to win a great prize at the end of the interview for supporting a local food bank. So food bank. All right, John Somsky, you had something to add.
I first just wanted to mention that poker and science are actually two of my favorite things. So you being a poker and science writer is right up my alley. And part of what I think is an important lesson that you can learn from poker is that, well, just life isn't fair, right? You can have pocket aces and have them cracked, or you can be up against pocket aces and still win the pot. You can be rewarded for doing the incorrect thing, and you can be not rewarded when you are doing the correct thing. And to understand that you have to look beyond the immediate reactions to figure out whether or not what you are doing is the best course of action, and that regardless of the outcome, setting yourself up to be in the best possible position is still an important thing to happen, despite the fact that it often won't go the way you want. And that's what I think one of the greatest lessons you can take from the game is.
Yeah, I agree. I often say when you sometimes find yourself with players who will have folded like ace 5 of diamonds, and like, oh, I would have had the winning hand. I'm like, okay, there was a 4-bet here. Was it the right decision free? If it was the right decision free, don't even look at the flop. Like, ignore it. Like, you have to think the way, I mean, why get upset about something? Did you make the right decision? Yes. Own it. That's it. That's all you need to worry about. Because like, oh, I wish I would have had trips. And I'm like, oh, so much could have happened. Like, this is like this sort of mentality that I sometimes see at the table. So I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, they always make the, like, be in the have the attitude of trying always to make the right and the best decisions. And those are the pre-flop ones, I think, are the best, most important ones. And then the rest is whatever happens. So you've got to kind of make peace of the fact that sometimes you get outplayed, maybe, I don't know. But I really feel like the sort of whole unfairness of life and at the table, sometimes the synergies there and overlaps. I totally agree.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how, you know, we get entitled when we get dealt pocket aces, but 20% of the time, like, you are destined to be upset and to lose that hand, you know, in the long run. Yeah. And it's just like life, you know, you can be well prepared and you can have all your ducks in a row. And just like you were saying about your daughter, you know, one of the things that makes poker great for the rest of us is that we can still win against the best players in the world. But that is a different contract that they enter into than, you know, chess, where if I play against a grandmaster for 1,000 games, they're going to win 1,000 games, and it's not going to be close.
Yeah. That reality is there. Yeah.
Chris Jones, you had something from the YouTube chat, I think.
Yeah, I've got some questions from the chat. I'm just trying to pick some of these. So Scott sent in a few, but I'm gonna start with this one from Scott Lum. Alex, he asks, in your book, you interview several experts from many other non-poker fields. And he's wondering what were some of the more valuable insights which helped with your own poker approach or strategy.
Poker specifically? Okay. Well, the sort of when I interviewed Professor David Matsumoto, I went to California to meet him, and he is the eminent researcher into microexpressions, like the little twitches in the face, and I remember meeting him being really nervous because I'm like, oh my God, this guy knows like every little muscle twitch in your face. He's gonna know if I'm like nervous or I was nervous and I remember us meeting in like his favorite bar or cafe somewhere next to his dojo. He's also 7-time black belt judo master and was on the Olympic team years and years ago. Anyway, digressing. So we get there and it's a German place. I'm German by birth. And it's a German bar and he's like, wants a German beer. And he's like, are you going to have a beer? And I'm like, and I don't love beer. For German, sorry. I just don't love beer. It's so weird. And then he must have picked up. I'm like, oh, I'll have a beer. I'm like, oh, I'll have a beer. And he's like, uh-oh, what was that? I'm like, fine. I don't like beer. He saw that like within seconds. I totally thought I like, and I'll just have a wine. And he saw, like he said, I saw fear in your eyes. I'm like, because I didn't want to let him down. I'm like, oh God. So the woman doesn't drink a beer. I thought I don't want to like, all these things have to like align because you want to establish a relationship with your interviewee and you want to make sure everything is perfect so they feel comfortable around you. So they give you the nuggets that they haven't told anybody else. And those were the ones that I was after. And what he told me was really so much about emotions and the distinction between feelings and emotions and how they manifest itself, what the differences are. But really, he said, he picked up on the story in the introduction where I was basically in the hand with a player and I donated all my chips and I made decisions based on emotions rather than clear critical thinking. And he said, oh, you were emotional. So he said, if you're emotional, there's no room for critical thinking. There's no room for analysis. And he made that really clear to me. I sort of knew it anyway, but he just said, you need to acknowledge those and recognize those and then realize that that's happening. And when that's happening, you're not going to be your best. And then I did an online course that he has to train lawmakers, law enforcement, and other professionals. And basically, it's videos of people with different expressions: fear, surprise, disgust, anger, and they just flick up on the screen for milliseconds. And I did that for several hours. And by the end of it, and now I'm pretty good at detecting some micro expressions, so I won't give it away. But yeah, that's been very helpful for me at the tables where I can sort of, I pay attention. I am not on my phone during play. And that is the other thing, is because there's so much happening at the table. And the World Series, the tournaments are so long and you can be folding for a long time. But part of the game is watching others and watching how they're playing a certain hand, what happens, because that's all information that you might find and can use for later on. So I definitely became more observant after writing the book, because then obviously it's also the verbal communication that became really important. One of the researchers that I interviewed, that I had the privilege to interview, was Professor Pennebaker, who analyzed he did semantic analysis on words, like what are words actually saying about our psychological and mental state. And he focused on pronouns So is somebody saying me or I, or us and we? And how does that reflect onto the whole subject matter? And to give you an example, if a manager or team leader is saying I, me, and I think, and whatever, my proposal is we should be doing this, rather than be talking inclusively about, okay, Tim, what are we going to do about this? How should we is more inclusive? So he sees himself as part of the team. And that's reflective of relationships as well. There was research into couples, and I interviewed several couples, and the couples that were talking about us and we had a stronger relationship and stayed together than those couples where one of the partners or either of them would be talking about he does or she does, and sort of verbally separated themselves out, even though they projected themselves as really, really happy. But what they're saying, because those pronouns we don't directly pay attention to, and that's why they're so powerful, because your subconscious is just talking, and so they reveal a lot about who you are and what you're thinking about somebody or something. And again, that can be useful at the tables too.
Yeah.
A lot of things, actually. Yeah. So
Well,
yeah.
and I mean, that makes a ton of sense to me, and I think it kind of relates to Scott's second question that he asked in the YouTube chat. So I'm going to kind of rephrase it a little, but basically what he's asking here is, so you've talked a lot about the science of bluffing and deception, about these sort of like abilities to sort of the facial expressions and micro facial expressions. What are some ways that you, either as a player or we as players in general, can be aware of what we are projecting and maybe protect ourselves about are we even capable as human beings of not expressing, not giving off those sort of micro expressions?
I'm sure we are. And if you look at some of the elite players, they're very good at it. I think if you're aware, that's your first start, right? If you're already aware that this might be a leak in your game, then you can adjust. So I have made a point of, I'm very sociable and I know I chat a lot, but I put my headphones on and I signal I don't want to talk. Because talking actually distracts me from paying attention to other things. So I don't want to be rude, so I just put them on, and then they're really big ones. And so I'm there, I'm there to win. We're all going in not to we're there to win a game. So and if I know that by talking I'm missing on things, or I'm even giving away stuff, because everybody's like, so especially while serious, like, oh, have you played a lot? I'm like, like I don't want you to know how good I am or how not good I am, so I don't want to give any of that away. So so I cut down my talking, I cut down my phone, because a lot of that stuff can, people are watching YouTube videos or texting others. Your table, personally, what I think, your table demeanor, your body posture, your paying attention can project a lot about your skill level as well. How you react after you lose a hand, for example. You find some players can get really, really angry, and some players will be like, okay, nice hand, well done, well played, and then move on. You can already judge another player's skill level from that and how they deal with that. I think that just pick one or two things to calibrate, and then once you've got those set and you're happy and you're in control of those, you can add stuff. But I think to completely change is just so much to think about anyway. You've got to focus on the game. Like, pick one thing, put headphones on, stop talking. One thing, put your phone away. That the phone thing is a big thing. For me, the moment I put my phone away, I just saw a ton of stuff. And I usually don't have anything playing in my headphones. So I do listen to others and what they're talking about. So there's stuff that you can pick up onto. Yeah, that I would just say be kind to yourself and pick one thing and then build from there.
That's a great answer. And I'm a big believer in sort of your comportment at the table influences how other people view you and your skill level and your experience. Would you say that this is an accurate statement, given that you're involved in science and in poker? So if someone's wearing a hoodie at the table, take that same person and put them in a really sharp, like, dinner jacket or a sports coat. Would you say that person gets about 20% more folds, or is that how would you quantify that?
You asking me who gets more folds?
Yeah, who gets more folds?
The hoodie guy, because it's just like I think so, because it's the poker uniform, isn't it? Hoodies, and it's usually with patched up and the sunglasses. Although I would love, I would love poker to look a little bit more Casino Royale.
Thank you. I agree.
I would absolutely love that. I've appreciated your outfits so and I tried that one, and then I think it was the final tabling, the little deep stack that I played. It was so cold in that room, and I had silk trousers on, a cute little top, and nothing else with me. And it was, even the big guys were putting their arms into their t-shirts because were. And I texted the only person I knew, and a big shout out to Zama Zemel, who was producing the Poker Go Studio stream. And I said, "You're the only one I know is still around at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I am freezing my ass off. You must have something there." So she sent the guy, she sent her friend Patrick with a hoodie, and we exchanged. I said, "I will give you a book. I will sign a book." And basically, I had a hoodie delivered to me, and I was never so grateful to wear a hoodie. And yeah, it's just that was a saver. But it's just cold there. I mean, it's these rooms are either too hot or too cold. But yeah, it'd be nice, everybody has their ideas, but you're playing for 10 million, you can something next to there, right? You can like totally dress up. And I have said that if I make a final table of some sort, I am totally gowning it out. I mean, it's just, we all want me to be on a final table because I'm wearing queen. So
nice. You got to bring some class to this organization.
No, but it is, poker is what it is. I mean, we have this whole conversation right now, right? That's in the Twitter sphere about what is or what isn't happening on the rail.
Sure.
And poker has come out from being played in underground dens and backyards and back of the shop into these huge tournament halls where tens of thousands are playing. And there is an argument to be made about what does that project if you have a team of coaches on the rail and they're looking at strategies, and then it projects this is really a skill game. On the other hand, it's like, should you not have prepared? I mean, I don't know. I'm really conflicted. The one thing I would say on that subject is, if it's directly not allowed in the rules, it should not be allowed indirectly. So if you directly not sitting there with your iPhone, you should also not indirectly have somebody else there. That would be I know the rules are a little murky from whatever, and this is why we're having this prolonged conversation. But my attitude to that is, if you've got a rule saying do not do it, but then you have a proxy doing it for you, isn't it the same thing? Shouldn't that be disallowed? Anyway, I totally digress, by the way.
But thanks for weighing in. We're keeping it topical here. Joe, did you want to jump in with anything else? I
just wanted to say two things. One, Jim's play style completely rejects your belief about about staying quiet and focused, and goes completely opposite. And two, I appreciate his suit jackets, but anybody that says that's Casino Royale means that Bond is rolling over in his grave.
Yeah. Fair point, Joe. Fair point. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
All right, well, folks, I think we're getting close to the end of our hour with Alex here. So we're going to jump into Stake, Study, Stack, and then we'll close the action with our speed round. If folks have any other questions, if there's a real quick one, type it in and maybe we can get it in. Or Alex, we're just going to have you back one of these days on the RecPoker podcast.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
perfect.
All
right, well, you're in for a treat because the fun part's just coming. So Chris, why don't you take us away with Stake, Study, Stack?
All right. So, Alex, this is a game we call Stake, Study, Stack. I'm going to give you 3 names. You're going to pick one who you would like to stake in a poker tournament or a cash game, one who you just like to study with, and one who you would really relish taking all of their chips at the table.
Okay.
And I'm going to go into this week, or I'm going to go with poker authors. So I have 3 names for you. I think you know them all pretty well. Jen Shahade, Dara O'Kearney, and Maria Konnikova.
Oh, that's oh my gosh. Okay, oh my gosh. I would stake Jen. And what was the other one?
Study and Stack.
Oh man. Oh, I definitely would want to study with Dara, obviously. That leaves Maria to start. Well, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we kind of have the science girls writing, but yeah, I mean, I would have to take a chip. Yeah, that's totally me. She's I love her to bits. She's amazing. I love all of her books. She's a fantastic writer. But maybe if I take her chips, that will make up for the fact that she's just so much better.
Fair enough. I love it. I
got myself there, but that was really difficult. Thanks.
There we go. We never said it would be easy. We said it would be fun. Easy was not easy. Is a 4-letter word.
Dan Bilzerian there. I'm like, yeah, that's an obvious one. That didn't happen.
No. That would have been easy. No, we're not giving you any easy ways out. All right. Speaking of not having any easy ways out, so you kind of set me up for this one earlier in the interview. We're getting along pretty well. I'm earning your trust. What's one nugget that you haven't told anyone else that I can pull out of you over the course of this chat?
I'm an open book. I think there's nothing that I've hidden from anybody. I'm afraid of the dark. Like,
okay.
If I'm alone, I have to have a light. Yeah.
That's a great one. Thank you for sharing that. And that's actually, what are you afraid of, is one of the questions from the speed round. So well done. We just get to just skip right past that.
Very efficient as well, like 2 in 1. My God.
That's the scientist in you. You're just working very efficiently. I appreciate that. All right. Well, we still don't have our soundboard back, so we don't get to do our dramatic TikTok countdown noise. But just imagine that the pressure's on, Alex, and we're going to close the action with our speed round. All right, so we start off with an easy one. Alex O'Brien, what is your favorite poker hand?
9-10 suited.
Is poker a gamble or a skill game?
Skill. Gosh, I read an entire book about it.
What's your biggest poker pet peeve?
My poker pet peeve? Biggest one.
Tick 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 tick.
The people who are talking bad beats whilst they are experiencing a bit, and just no.
Yeah.
I had to play. No.
All right, next poker question. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Is Ace King a drawing hand?
Depends how you look at it.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, we can work with that. How about a taco? Is a taco a sandwich?
The thing is a kind of bread. It's like dry. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. No, we got our thinking here, folks. Should vacations be lazy or busy?
The what?
vacations, should they be lazy or busy?
See, my vacations, people always think they're busy, but it's semantics. It depends what you all define as busy. Like
Okay.
but lazy, busy.
You're
Lazy.
kind of weaseling your way out of this one, but we're gonna let it happen.
Okay.
What's your favorite brick and mortar poker venue?
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you. Tick tock, tick tock, tick.
I've never been to it, and it's on my bucket list. It's Monaco. The thing with the open, it's like I look at it every year, and every year my schedule is not aligning to go. EPT Monaco, that just looks incredible to me, and I must play there. I have to play there one year.
I love it. All right. Who's one poker player that you respect?
I respect so many, so I'm not going to choose one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
What about a calzone? Is a calzone a sandwich?
No, that's a pie. That's a pie.
Okay. What about an open-faced sandwich? Is an open-faced sandwich a sandwich?
Well, if you go strictly speaking, what a sandwich is, it usually has to have a top and a bottom, right? Because that's all of sandwich set. It has a. That's why the hot dog and the taco, because it has a top and a bottom. But the open sandwich is the Scandi stuff. It's just like a smorgasbord, whatever it's called. Yeah, right. No.
Okay, so you're in the tartine camp.
Sandwich obsession. I'm now obsessed with knowing why there's so much sandwich obsession here.
What makes a sandwich a sandwich? We're asking the real questions here on the RecPoker podcast, Alex. This is maybe the debate of our generation. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Live one where you eat different types of sandwiches.
If scientists don't argue about definitions, then what have we?
Yeah, are they even scientists? That's what I want to know. Exactly. All right, there's a yellow light coming up, Alex. Slow down or speed up?
Speed up.
Are you pro chop or no chop when it comes to tournaments?
What chop? Sorry, again?
Pro chop or no chop?
Oh.
Do you favor chops or are they banished to the basement dungeon?
If like one time earlier this year, you've been playing 14 hours and you heads up for 3 hours, at that point, chop.
Cool.
I nearly killed the guy. Honestly, I'm like, I had him twice, and then I'm like, and then I died. Like, there's pictures of me like staring at him, like, will you just lose already?
that's we all know that feeling. That's an argument for chopping right there. What's one thing that you cannot live without? And don't say like the love of your family or the loving gaze of your daughter. Something that you have in your life
right now. Oh, well, I can do with. You know what? Does it need to be one thing, or is it something? No. Reading. I am obsessive about reading, and it has to be physical books. I don't do digital. So I will. I cannot. It's like my crack cocaine. I cannot walk into a bookstore and walk out without a book. It's just
that's so cool.
Possible. Yeah. So yeah.
No, I love that. Good for you. Don't ever lose that. Name one great musical artist. One great one.
Howie.
Cool. All right. Finally, is a Pop-Tart then a sandwich?
I don't know what a Pop-Tart is.
The European class brings this.
What does it look like?
Oh, no. You don't want to know. It's better if you don't know. It's better if you don't know what a Pop-Tart is.
It sounds dirty. Pop-Tart.
It is. It sounds like you know all that you need to know about this particular American culinary delight. All right, last question on this one then. Who, and everyone has one, is your poker nemesis?
My poker nemesis. It's still gonna be Kasuf.
Yeah, right.
Still don't like him. Sorry, I played with him recently. We both pretend I didn't write an entire introduction about him, scathing him. So we're like polite-ish to each other. So yeah.
Yep. Good answer. Good answer. That's not the first time we've had that answer on this show. You will not be surprised to hear. That's excellent. All right, and then last question. Take your time with this one. The dramatic tick-tocking noise on the imaginary soundboard has been imaginarily turned off. The pressure's off. What's one thing that we can all do in our lives, inside of poker or outside of poker, to make our lives more fun?
To make our not assume that there's always a ulterior or negative motive. Like this is maybe my downside. I always think of the positives first, and that is my life mantra. Like, see the positives before you see the negatives, and assume that about other people too. And perhaps, and when you're sitting down at the table, we're very quick to judge, because that's the first thing we've got to go on. Like, the hoodies must be a crusher. Maybe not. Verify that's what you see, and don't assume the worst or the negative aspects of anybody. So to make it more fun, just assume everybody is kind, I guess, and then judge them on their behavior and on what they say and do, and only then can you then maybe make your own conclusions on that. But I think if we all go about the world thinking about things in a positive light and with optimism, it kind of is a better way than rather suspecting anybody or seeing conspiracy theories everywhere, or assuming people just because they are conservatives or Republicans, we go in politics, finished that they are in a certain way. But just there's nuances, and that's when you finish reading the book, you can see that we're not black and white, we're not liberal and conservatives, that there's lots of nuance, there's lots of gray there, and we should celebrate the gray, and we should come together more often. So oh gosh, that was a
great answer. I love it. Well, I'm just doing some quick math here, taking off my shoes so I can count on my toes, getting to 797 points. That's an excellent score for closing the action. Alex, you should feel really good about that. You almost cracked that 800, that mythical 800 threshold. No,
tell me.
Very
my
close.
God.
Timing was a factor. You were warned early as we discussed this. But I want to take off from your last point here. So while we're just going to say goodbye to Alex in a second here, but she talks about thinking about the best in people, giving people the benefit of the doubt, finding ways for those on the left and the right to come together. And one thing that we all, I think, can agree on is that some people in our world need a little help putting food on the table, feeding their loved ones, feeding their children. Even in North America, which we think of as being this great, breadbasket of the world and this wonderfully advanced civilization and great culture, a very rich place. Lots of people in Canada and America need a little help right now, more than ever, just putting food on the table. And it's a great way for you to help make the world a better place. Just pull out your smartphone, if you're listening right now, and Google food banks near me. You'll find a list of organizations that can really benefit from a few dollars out of your pocket, a few hours of volunteer work out of your week, or just a few non-perishable food items from your own pantry. So I encourage you, if you're listening at home and you want to make a difference in the world and you want to make the world a better place, do what you can with what you have where you are. And the best way to do that is by supporting a local food bank. So if you want to start typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat right now, we're going to say goodbye to Alex and we'll announce some home game results. And then we'll award a prize to someone who's randomly drawn in our food bank sweepstakes here at the end of the show. Alex, this has been such a pleasure. We just scratched the surface. We're definitely going to be. We'll be doing this again if I have my way.
Thank you. I'd love to come back. Thank you very much.
No, that'd be great. How can folks show their appreciation? Where can they connect with you? Are there social media handles, a website, a newsletter? What's the best way for people to say thanks for coming on the show and to get more Alex O'Brien?
Thank you. Obviously on your channels, that'd be great. Quoting and tagging you guys. Poker Twitter seems to be like on Twitter. My Twitter seems to be just poker players. So O'Brien Tweet is the handle there, and if they so wish, they can buy my books in all brilliant US and Canada shops and Amazon, obviously. So thank you. I really had a great time. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I hope we get to meet up at next year's Irish Poker Open, if not before.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet.
Be ready. I might be taking your tips.
Bring it on. All right, that sounds great.
You got it.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you so
Alex.
much. Have a lovely evening. Thanks for having me on.
You too. Good luck with all those ice cream eating kids and beer swilling
I don't know if
fellas
you can
over
hear
there.
them, but I think they sort of cracked. They're sort of
Yeah, I think this timing's working out great. All right,
great.
thanks again,
Thank you
Alex.
so
You
much.
take care.
Take care. Bye.
All right, John Somsky, why don't you take us through some recent home game results, and then we'll see who's going to be the winner of our food bank raffle this week.
All right, Killy 19,341. Rich Deacons got his
Go,
first
Rich.
nightly victory for the year. PCS 2005, Jack LaRue got his first nightly victory for the year.
Wonderful.
Jay Sedum, Jeff S. got his 5th nightly victory for the year. And none other than Gopher Boy TJM Taylor won the Daily Mixed event for the 3rd time this year.
Makes sense.
Duck and Run 99, Michael Savage
Mike.
got his 4th international victory for the year. And Max Chaos 2012, Greg Clem got his 2nd international victory for the year. And then Roadstar 33 won the LPP event. So he can contact info at rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker. Also, as a reminder, starting August 1st, we will be having our games every single day. So you can play the home games every day, including Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday nights, which you have not been able to recently.
Yeah, so that's great. So John, if folks don't know, John runs our home game club every single night now at 9 o'clock Eastern. We're going back to the lockdown version where we were doing them every single night at 9. Plus, for our international fans, you can play on Saturday morning and on Saturday afternoon. We've got 2 international time zones on Saturday. Plus, we've got the mixed practice game on those Wednesday nights alongside the home game. And, of course, our monthly tournament of champions. So speaking of champions, let's all, if you see this John Somsky guy in the wild, buy him a beer. For God's sakes, put a cold drink in this man's hand because he's really putting himself out there. And that's like 10 or 11 home games every week that you can play in for free. Come test your mettle against some of the best players in a regular online play money home game series. Folks have told us it's the toughest play money tournament series available, and it's because we're there to win. We're there to get better together. We're all practicing our game. We're studying together. There's a leaderboard with real prizes. It's not your typical play money donk fest. These are people that are really trying their best, and that's why you see so many of these excellent players in the winner circle week after week. So thank you, John, for this amazing contribution.
Well,
and for putting this all together.
One thing that has happened is the Intergalactic Voting Organization has officially announced for the 2nd year in a row that our home game is the toughest home game in the multiverse.
Wow.
So
there you go. And that's the whole
go.
multiverse. Like that's quite the claim. That's quite the claim. Very impressive. Very impressive. Rob Washam, you've got something you'd like to add, I think.
Yeah, it was just we were talking about poker, obviously, and we were talking about the home games and trying to get better and improving at home games. I was watching the latest Learn with Partners video from Solve for Why, and it was titled Championship Final Table Part 2. The video featured Matt Hunt, who I think is one of the best coaches explaining MTT strategies and making it understandable. He's so good. So I want everybody to check it out. And if you want to get more of this type of content, you can sign up for Solve for Why by going to the RecPoker website under resources and click on Learning Partners. Check it out.
Yeah, so Rob's referencing our Learning with Partners program, which is part of our premium membership here. I mean, pretty much all the best training sites in the world have partnered with us here at RecPoker to put their amazing premium paywalled material in front of our members, because they know that recreational poker players are the lifeblood of the game. They're the future of the game. And so by being a RecPoker premium member, you actually get to kind of sample a lot of some of the best training sites material out there. It's a great way to see who are the coaches and trainers and pros that approach the game in the way that you like to learn. And maybe you can go and take that next step and join one of these much more expensive than RecPoker learning partners to really take your game to the next level. But yeah, go to rec.poker/resources and you can find out all sorts of details and discounts on joining up with these other sites. So just one of the perks of throwing your $22 in the ring. And reminder, you can always get your first month of RecPoker premium for only $5 by using the code RecPoker at checkout. All right, let's give the people what they want. Chris Jones, you're saying that, oh, actually, no, hold on, let's tease that for 1 second. We also have some more exciting news coming. We're also going to be starting a Patreon offering in August, where for $7.50 instead of the $22 that premium membership costs, you can sign up for audio versions of all our training material, all our premium videos, downloaded to your phone in real time like a podcast. So if you're interested in listening along while you're in the car or working or doing projects around the house, if you're an on-the-go podcast fan, I don't think you'll find a much higher quality of material for your $7.50 a month than our 14 to 18, hour-long premium training experiences that are available here. So if $22 is too much for you, or if you don't have time to engage in our live study sessions or watch our videos at home, consider in August signing up for the Patreon there, and you can support us in that way and also get these kind of audio files on the go if that's your jam. So lots of ways to get involved here at RecPoker. And of course, you can always sign up for a free account every day by just going to rec.poker, but we will insist on that email address and the smile. All right, Chris, it sounds like we're having technical difficulties. We cannot have the DISO cam.
It was I don't know what was going on. My phone wouldn't shut up basically. So there's no so it's like two sound things going off and they were not quite at the right time. So it was like they were having a bad battle. But
so
before
we're working on the honor system this time.
Yeah, this is going to be an honor system roll. Before I roll tonight, I did want to mention one thing about the deep dive. We've been doing our deep dive segments for the past few months about player exploits, adjusting your different player types. And I had a great conversation with Jim just recently, and our August deep dive will be coming out in August. And it's all about his main event run. And I thought we had a really good conversation. If you're interested in kind of learning more about some of the spots that he picked up and some of the places where he adjusted, and we looked at some other spots that other players played on stream and where we might make adjustments to them. Check it out. I think it's going to be a fun one, and that'll be coming out this August. So
yeah, it's August 1st. There'll be I think it's about a 90-minute video or so going through a lot of the hands that I played in the main event this year. Alex referenced it earlier, but I'm still kind of on cloud 9. I made it all the way to 210th place for a cool $60,000 and felt just great doing it. Obviously had a lot of luck along the way, but I like to think I applied some of the skills and knowledge that I've picked up here at RecPoker over the years as well. And that was a really good conversation, Chris, and folks can kind of come along and see how I approached various hands and see how some other players approached various hands in this very unique tournament structure. So just one of the ways that you can up your game by signing up for premium membership here at RecPoker. Now, Chris, I'm looking in the YouTube chat.
It will be the honor system. I've got three names. I see Joe
Only three names.
I see Joe Rafter, JD Malay, and the RRCCC.
That's
1, 2, 3. And since Phil Razor's in the chat but didn't do it, nobody's getting bamboozled. No, we won't get any accusations of bamboozlement, at least.
I'll tell you what, though, if we roll a 4, then I'll make a donation of $20 to a local food bank here in Cobourg, Ontario, and we'll do a re-roll to find a true winner with 1 to 3. So who's it going to be? Who's it going to be this week?
It's a 3.
All right.
That's the RRCCC.
That's the RRCCC. So congratulations. I happen to know, I'm not going to dox the guy here on Twitter because I only do that by accident. But the RRCCC, if you are already a RecPoker Premium member, congratulations. You have unlocked a month of training membership at one of our fantastic training partners. So whether it's Solve for Why, Learn Pro Poker, PokerCoaching.com, the Poker Forge, Red Chip Poker, Jacket Coaching, Run It Once. You've got a lot of ways to take your game to the next level. So send an email, please, to info@rec.poker, and we'll set you up with the parameters that are available for each of those organizations for you to choose between. And if you are not already a RecPoker Premium member, then you've won a month of amazing membership here at RecPoker. So everyone's got something to win, but our premium members do get to unlock a whole new exciting tier of prizes. It's like we say, it's just one of the perks of being a RecPoker Premium member. All right. Well, folks, I think we can wrap it up here. I want to thank Alex O'Brien for being a fantastic guest, and Kim Kilroy for playing with her on stream in the Irish Poker Open and making that connection and convincing her to come on the podcast. So full points to Kim for that. And if you're a listener, if there's someone that you'd like to have interviewed on the show, don't hesitate. Go up to them, tell them how great the RecPoker podcast is, and tell them that we'd love to have them on the show. And you can give them my email, jim@rec.poker, and we'll make it happen. This is episode 607. I got plans for another 670 something at least. So we need some more guests to come in and keep it great. And I'd love to do it in a way that sort of suits some of our longtime listeners as well. So thanks to Alex, thanks to Kim, thanks to Rob Washington, John Somsky, and Chris Jones for their contributions on the RECing Crew, and Joe Koulis, who couldn't stick around. Thanks to everyone in the YouTube chat. Thanks to my mom for showing up and putting a smile on my face every week. And for you, the listeners at home, we couldn't do it without you. So thanks for tuning in for another week of the RecPoker podcast. See you next week.